That's very valuable. All right, everybody. Why, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Traumaplicity Talk Show. I am your host, Dr. Amanda Helman, and I am on this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You might be in different places in the world, so welcome. And I am on this week. Sometimes we have lots of guests sharing their story. But first, Traumaplicity. It is trauma, and then simplicity, simple steps to overcome trauma and navigate through it. Traumas can be small or big, but they all matter, and they impact us in different ways. And so I'm on today talking about hope during uncertainty. And that's an important topic. So if you're joining, welcome. If this is your first time, you can share it with friends. This will be on YouTube and a podcast. Currently it's on Facebook, but I'm in the works of doing that. And so with Traumaplicity, we want to look at trauma through the lens of simplicity rather than complexity. In fact, when I first thought about the word, I had somebody think about Traumaplicity, which could go well, but all of a sudden I wrote Traumaplicity, and it all connected that it's about simplicity. When our brain knows simple steps, breaking down the how-tos to different tasks, it's more golden. We actually get a lot more finished. And so I'm hoping that today, those of you who are joining, or perhaps you'll join later, that you can, and you can even write in your chat. I'm actually going to have this live. So I'm going to my page. And if you are, oops, all connected. If you are live or you're watching later, you can chat, you can put something in the chat saying hello. But a lot of times our brain, when we think of complex, we think it's too hard. We think of the end. We think of the end and the result rather than the simple steps of a process. And when that happens, we get overwhelmed. We either A, avoid it, B, get fearful of it, C, completely talk ourselves out of it, or D, just shut down and do nothing. And this can happen when we're in times of uncertainty. And I'm not sure about you, but as a human being, there has really been nothing certain in my life. Yes, I have family and friends, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. And again, I always think in a positive. I want to see everybody doing well every day. But I don't know what things are going to happen today or tomorrow. We don't know if we're going to meet, if we're not married, meet somebody, or if we are married, something might impact our marriage, or what's going to happen with family. Everything is uncertain in life, even our jobs. We might even be in our job for so long, but things might change. And I think that's really interesting because we are, a lot of us as humans, creatures of habit. So we want things to look the same. We want things to feel good and comfortable. And it's really difficult for us to really, I would say, as I believe it's Aerosmith said, living on an edge, right? It's really difficult for us to realize we quite literally every day are living on the edge. We have no idea. We have no control over the circumstances in our life. The only control we have is how we respond, what we say or what we don't say, what we actually say, and then who we are and what we do. And so how we think matters. And in times, and I can say I've certainly lived a lifelong area of learning how to have hope and uncertainty. I feel like even in life, you can have uncertainty and then it becomes even more exacerbated, or really becomes even greater and larger in measure when we're not sure what's going to happen around us. There's uncertainty in relationships. There's uncertainty in even how people, who's going to be there, who's going to be stable, consistent. And when that happens, it may impact hope. And for me, hope is defined as a substance, it's a matter, and it's a believing and standing firm, a confidence that things are going to work out, things are going to get better, things are going to shift. And that can seem very hard if all we've ever known, or all you've ever known if you're watching, is a hardship. It can be difficult. I totally can relate, where we're like, what else? Oh my goodness, I just got myself up and now this and this and this is happening and I'm not quite sure what else to do. I totally can empathize. I totally can relate. And in those moments, I would say even this year was probably a huge year of me saying yes and taking a great leap, a huge leap as I left my job in August and I went out to the unknown of coaching, of business, of doing internship, and everything shifted for me. And in that moment, at first, I didn't quite do so well. My brain was totally what was it doing? My brain was in alert, alert, alert. Oh my goodness. And know that that impacts our bodies, impacts our sleep. It impacts all types of things about our being, cells, and everything else. And so I was in a high level of stress. And interestingly enough, when I was a speaker recently at a conference for women, when I was sitting down and we took an assessment, my numbers were off the chart, like 500 plus. What does that mean, Amanda? It meant that I was under twice what could be called normal stress because of many different changes. Add in the death of my grandfather, my cat in January, and I would say August or January with changes in salary, changes in job, changes in school, changes in my entire schedule, changes in insurance, changes in everything, including where I drove, my usual, and going out to my new internship, meeting new people, having new responsibilities, and getting all of that done, including finishing and sending off my new book. That was a lot. And there was so much that happened for me to learn how to get out of the negative. And it took some time for me to shift. There came a point where I sat in hope and I decided that everything, even that month, I trusted it's going to be okay, that I knew that it was going to be okay, that I had a shift in me, that things were shifting. Meaning, and that happened as soon as I started to speak that out and even write that down and start to believe and say there are good things for me. And I'm a woman of faith, so I would use here Jeremiah 29:11. People would always give me that word, but really that there are good things ahead. And it was teaching me how to trust, not in the normal, trusting in my own strength, trusting in other people, trusting in the normal things I did, but learning how to have ease and flow. And it's important to know that there can be stressors. There's some stress that's healthy stress, but overall, when we have too much stress in our body, it impacts us. It impacts all of our systems. And so I was learning in the midst of all of this, how to really keep hope. And I had a lot of despair. I remember, in fact, in August, or July, right before all these changes, I sat in my one room and I was crying, crying, crying. I couldn't get up. Now, the positive thing is that if that would have happened to me 7 years ago, I would have been on the couch or perhaps on my bed, and I'm not lying to you. I would have been there at least a week or two. Like, it would have taken me out for a month or so. And this time it took me a day, it took me less than a day to get up, but it was everything in me just feeling so defeated, feeling despair, feeling hopeless, like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? What's going to happen? Trying to go to the what next and staying instead of staying in the now. And it was really interesting because it took a lot out of me to not think with the what ifs. I was operating and activating in my limbic system, which is a huge part of our brain. But what I was doing was I was operating in the right amygdala. And the right amygdala in our brain actually is more the negative, fear, really any of the responses that bring us to thinking the worst. And what was happening was I wasn't activating my left amygdala. The left amygdala is where we have our positive responses. We can actually see from a higher perspective. We can actually think of what could happen that's positive or think about things in a different lens. And we need them both operating. Think of a seesaw. If you have one part of the amygdala, because it's really in our temples, one part of the amygdala that is activated and the other one not, and most times I would say than not, it's the right side of the amygdala, the fear factor, and all of the anger and all the scared, being terrorized or any of that stuff. If that is operating, then we are not we're not releasing emotions, and we're not releasing both the positive and the negative. Even with negative comes, if I have a thought, for example, about thinking about something negative, if my left amygdala is working, so say, for example, I'm like, oh man, I don't know what's going to happen with a job. So my right amygdala might be like, alert, 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 or shut down. Now, if I'm thinking with my left amygdala, I'll be like, okay, so right now I'm not sure about a job, but I have these skills, X, Y, Z, and it's possible for me to find something. So what's happening is I'm shifting right away. But what happens is when our neurons, our neurotransmitters are stuck, they're stuck with old emotions, they're stuck with old ways of thinking, and we need this shift. We need the seesaw to activate that left and right side so that we actually can release emotions rather than keep it in our bodies. In fact, even in our cells. I don't know if you realize that, but that's not even the issue. The issue is that we have our own individual cellular trauma memory and things that happen to us. And then we also have things that happened in our family line. And if they never were dealt with, secrecy, things that happen to family, belief systems that we never address, yep, it impacts us. It impacts our brain. And so what happens is it takes time, but it's possible to shift and get the left and right, the left amygdala working so that we're actually having a lens and a perspective that is healthy for us. And so that is my story. With back then, my left amygdala was essentially shut off more than it is today. And I was in a state of despair, just stressed out about what was going to come. I spent that day really processing and was proud of myself because those days of despair aren't happening because I have that shifting. Do I have moments where there might be some uncertainty? Absolutely. We're human. I don't know one human being on planet Earth that is never uncertain. I haven't met them. Maybe you can introduce me to them, but I haven't met them yet. So that is one big part, is we want to look at that. The second part, when we're thinking about hope in the midst of uncertainty, is that things happen. There are things that are so sad and so hard and so scary. And I want to affirm that I'm not saying that things aren't going to be sometimes sad or painful, but that there is hope. Hope is the thing. Viktor Frankl, one of my favorite people, he was a survivor of the Holocaust. And he says that hope kept him. And when he looked at people, when people kept hope despite everything, it kept them alive. That they kept hope. They had the will to live. They had hope, even in the most dire, horrible, atrocious, inhumane, horrible, unnecessary conditions. And so point being is that there is hope. And so I got myself up and I, day after day, no matter what was going on, and I continued to say, it's going to get better. I continued to work on that healing and going deeper and activating my brain into what I wanted, writing down the things that I wanted to do, having those journals of all the promises that I'm believing for. I even allowed myself to weep when I needed to process grief, to sit down and process how I'm feeling and be in my honest place. I also allowed myself to, because that's part of shifting our brain, is identifying how we're feeling, releasing how we're feeling, because then we can shift how we're feeling. It's a process. It's like release, shift. Release my feelings, shift my brain, my neurons, my neurotransmitters. And that's how it works. It says dump and then shift, literally. I want you to think about that seesaw, shift, shift, shift. We want to get the old out. We want to get the new started. And so that is a huge part of it. And in that time, I literally, and I've talked about this, but I really didn't understand how deeply I was struggling with having hope. But I had really 7 years ago at this time, really had lost hope. I already was hopeless before, but I was like, I don't know. Is there possible to be beyond hopeless? It was there. I was there. And I remember in my faith, like I had all these different scriptures on my wall. I just put them there. I remember God gave me one that I will always keep. Romans 15:13. May the God of hope fill you with all hope in the Holy Spirit as you trust in the power of the Holy Spirit. And what he was showing me was that even in my mourning, there is possibility for joy. Even in my hardship, there's possibility for new beginnings, that I could shift even how I was thinking, that it's okay to cry, it's okay to write, it's okay to mourn, it's okay to process, it's okay to write my journal, it's okay to take that time And it's okay to know that it's not uncertain, but what's not okay is not getting back up. So any of you watching or listening later, there is hope. And as Dr. Diane Langberg says, if you have no hope today, I'll hope for you. I have hope for you, hope for good plans in the future, no matter what your background, your faith, wherever you are, that you are seen, you are heard, you are loved, you are valued, and you are cherished, and that you matter, and that even in the depths of despair, all kinds of stuff happening. And my goodness, I may not be able to be exactly in your shoes because I can't be, but I can empathize and I can say, here, let's do this. So if you're watching this, you're like, how can I even do this? The medical, the bills, there is hope that you are here with purpose. You have a design for purpose, and that what you carry inside and who you are is critical. It's critical for the generations. It's critical for bringing forth what, if you didn't bring it, who's going to bring it? Who's going to have that miracle, or who's going to have that invention? Who's going to have those words to help somebody else? Who's going to have what you have inside, or your story? Because inside of you is your story, is an overcoming story of all kinds of things that have happened. And so my hope for you today is that even in the midst of uncertainty, what we can do is say, what am I thinking, right? Am I in fear? Am I worried? Am I stressed? Because I'm in my right amygdala. And if I'm constantly having the same thought over and over again, I'm in my right amygdala. Okay, what's the opposite of that thought? So if I'm like, well, this will never get better. Okay, let me take that thought. Okay, in my positive amygdala is all my positive emotion, the hope. Okay, so it will get better. Things are going to get better. I may not see it right now, but what is it that I can do right now? Okay, maybe I can journal. Okay, I need a breath of fresh air. Okay, even taking 10 steps. Okay, maybe 2 steps. Okay, getting up, moving. As we move our feet, we activate our brain. We activate the waves to help us with healing. We get the movement going. And so what is it that you need today? 5 steps, maybe 10 steps more than yesterday. And so I'm just encouraging you and speaking that life over you, that what is it? Maybe taking those 5 steps. Maybe it's eating something healthy, drinking more water today, allowing yourself to write and journal, allowing yourself to process, calling a friend, going outside, even if you step just outside, even if you just walk down the road 10 steps, even if you go down the block. Allow yourself to start that. You start somewhere. You start with the first step. So I really want to encourage you all today. Again, there's always areas. So I have the SAMHSA, I'll have the suicide hotline, mental health hotlines posted for this episode, because even in uncertainty, sometimes it's very real and it's very scary and you have no way how to do that. So my hope is, if you don't have someone safe that you can call, those lines are, again, people that won't know you, but that might be something that's more safe for you than going to people that you know. All right. So again, my hope and certainty is, even on the hardest days, getting up, standing up, and knowing that what you carry, and as you're going through, that there are people that care about you, that you are worthy, and that you are loved. So I hope you all take care. We have Traumaplicity talk show every Wednesday at 7 p.m. on the Amanda Helman author and speaker page. Traumaplicity is trauma and simplicity, so simple steps to overcoming trauma. And my encouragement is, get on up and get on out, or allow yourself just one simple step today, and know that there is hope. So we have the show. It's usually 20 to 30 minutes every week. It will be available on the Amanda Helman Facebook page, on the YouTube and the podcast, and look out for additional things with Traumaplicity in the near future. And I thank you all for your time. If you had anything in this message that meant something to you, I would love for you to share it below. If you have any questions about hope or uncertainty, I would love for you to put it below. I'm here for you. I'm certainly on this page. So thank you all very much. And I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday. Until I see you next week, you'll know either the guest or if it'll be me next week, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everybody. Talk soon.